If you're a wannabe race driver, somebody who really wants to get into motorsport as a driver, but you don't know where to begin, you don't know how much it costs, who to speak to, this video is for you. Hello, wannabe race drivers, people who want to race. I've got to remember, right? The Race Driver Coach Show is for drivers how to mentally perform, how to create a career, how to even get sponsorship. That's what we talk about. But I've got to remember, there's a lot of people watching this and listening to the podcast that haven't even got a race license. They want to get into motorsport, but they don't know how much it costs. And it's just like, when you're looking at motorsport from the outside, it seems like it's an elitist sport. How the hell do I get in? Do I have to be invited? Is it something you're born into? Am I too old? There's all these questions. Obviously, I get a lot of them, but I want to put them to bed really here and show you, okay, you want to get a race license. This is how I would do it right now if I was to go and get a license to start racing again. Because my race license expired ages ago. I didn't bother. After the racing stopped, I was like, no, I am a coach now. I'm a performance coach. So I just didn't even renew it. But if I wanted to get back into it now, this is exactly what I would do. And actually, this is what I did do back in 1994, some time ago. The same process that I did then still exists now. And it's not much more expensive than it was back then, especially relatively anyway. So I want to walk you through it. You're a person at home, wants to race. This is how you do it. And I'm going to do it from if you're in the UK. And I'm going to have some US references as well and some links for the US and the UK market. But you could be from anywhere. The same kind of principles or the same kind of structure will be in place somewhere near you. If it's not in your country, it's going to be somewhere you can travel to and do this same thing. Okay? It's going to be a 5-step process. This is how you get your license. This is how you start racing and enter a championship, and on your way you go. So, I mean, you can do it quicker, by the way. What I'm going to tell you is it's a cheap way of doing it, but still you can do it cheaper. If you really wanted to start racing as quick as possible, all you have to do, this is the secret, right? All you have to do is you go to a race school, you do their half-day course for like 500 quid, $500. You get your race license at the end of it. Boom. You're ready to go. That's it. You've got your race license. Go racing. Enjoy yourself. That's the super cheap way of doing it. To get your license, you can call yourself a race driver because you've got the license. Obviously, you are not in a championship and you haven't got anything, no clothing or anything, but still, that's the cheap way to do it. But I want to show you the process that gives you the best chance of success, gets you ready, and it doesn't mean that you're going to spend a fortune. Now, this really does work in the UK. In Europe, there's lots of things like this, so just adjust it to wherever you live. But let me just say, this is how you do it. The 5 steps are this. Firstly, pre-license training. We're going to talk about that. Then secondly, get your license. The third thing I want to talk about, or the third step, is to pick the first championship that you're going to enter. So you know what kind of clothing, which is step 4, get the race clothing and everything, all the other equipment that you need. And step 5, go compete. That is it. So you do your pre-license training, get your license, find out what it is you want to race, which you could do before actually, because if it's rally, you'll do a different kind of license. Then you need all the kit, and then you enter the championship. Pretty simple, right? But let me give you some links. Let me do some screen share with you now so I can talk you through exactly what I would do. Right, different ways. Step 1, get in the pre-license training. Now, before I go into the screen share, the reason I want to do this, the reason why I want to do pre-license training is to make sure that you're safe. To make sure that you know what a race line is and you can execute it on your own. You maybe have wheel-to-wheel racing experience. You've got the spatial awareness that when you're in a car and you're able to think at speed. This is the kind of training I would like you to get before you even start racing. Because going into a race with just your license, you've done a half-day course, you've done 1 or 2 test days on your own, and then you're straight into a race, it's going to be terrible. It's going to be a nightmare because you're going to have people battling. You're going to have people slapping the side of your car when you're in it. You've got to think too quick. There's too much to remember. You'll be missing gears everywhere. You don't know the circuit very well. and it can be a nightmare. So I want you to be prepared before you go onto the track. So this is important. This is why I want you to do the pre-license training, just to get the race in mind, to start to learn the skills before you go and compete. Makes sense, right? So to get this pre-license training, I've got a few ideas. The first thing is to really get some kind of one-to-one tuition. This is when you go to a track day or a race school, you have an instructor, which is obviously a race driver or ex-race driver, sat next to you, and they're teaching you all the different things that you need to know in order to become a driver. And if you just explain to them, right, I want to become a race driver, I want to start racing, I need to learn the basics. I'm going to do my test in 3 months' time. So I need to do some training with you just to make sure I'm ready, I'm safe, and I can compete, and basically I can be fast as soon as I start to race. So looking here, right, Silverstone, you can see the tabs across, maybe if you can see that. I've got different ideas for you to do this. Silverstone, one-to-one coaching, lots of race circuits have these race schools, and you can see this is the kind of price. So if you want to do a 1 hour tuition with a race driver in the passenger seat in a BMW M2 around Silverstone Grand Prix track, it's going to cost you £499. Okay. And if you want to use your own car, you still got the instructor next to you. You can do a half day there for £699. That's not bad. The thing is, though, when you're using your own car, you got to remember this. When you're using your own car, you're going to use tires. So if you do track days, you're going to use tires, you're going to go through brakes. The engine's going to take a bit of a stunking as well. So use a car that can take a little bit of a beating. People do this in different ways. You can enter a track day. A normal track day probably costs like £300 for the day. You take your own car. You can hire a race driver to come with you for like £400 sort of thing. They'll teach you. So then the whole day probably costs just over £1,000 if you need a new front left tire or something. That can be a very good way to have a full day of one-to-one training. And to be fair, that might be all you need before you go and do your race license, or you might want to do a few others. So that's the first thing. If you can go to a race school, I think I've got some more here as well. There's a bit of a example. Bike and track days, MSV, which is in England. All the circuits you can see here. By the way, I'm putting all these links that I'm using here, and you're seeing on the screen. I'm putting all these links in the description. So take a look. Here, you take a look at this. You can go to Alton Park, Donington, Snetterton, and it costs like £145 for that day. That's a drifting day. Okay, general day, £269. These are the kind of prices you can pay. You got an £89 here. These are the kind of prices you can pay when you take your own car and you're just driving around a track, getting used to it all. I really think it's good. Track Club is another one. Now, Track Club they're pretty good. I used to see them around when I did track days before. These guys, £1,300, £1,000 for a Lotus Elise. This is when you literally hire the whole car. I think they deliver it as well, and you just drive it for a day. You pay for the track day on top of that, the 200 odd quid. So again, it's around 1,500, should we say, pounds, 1,500 euros, dollars, for you to have a good full day in a car, and you can have a coach with you as well. So there's these kind of things. Then if we go to the US, you've got Allen Berg Race School, where you can do a 1 day tuition. I think you can do 2 or 3 day tuition as well, actually. They take you through the whole procedure. This is 1 day here. You can see everybody arrives at 7:45. At 8:15, you go through the gearbox, you get introduction, and then you start lapping. 9:30 in the morning, you start lapping with the instructors, and you're following them like ducks in a row. And then you start at 12:45 till 4. You're in the car going round and round and round, learning. Now, these kind of things, 2,300 for a full day. Now, you might think that's a lot of money. But if you spend that $2,300 on a full day in a Formula car with instructors training you, that's like the express route. You after that day, or if you do the 3-day course, which is obviously more money, but have a look at the link, as I say, and talk to the people at Allen Berg. Talk to Allen Berg, he's there. You're basically shown all the theory in the classroom. You go out there, they show you how to drive. There's cones on the track normally showing this is where you brake, this is where you turn in, this is the apex and the exit, and you get to learn the race line. It's like intensive training. And after you've done that day, you pretty much have all the basics. And if you're naturally gifted at driving, you'll be able to tell there. The instructors will give you feedback on how good you are. And they won't just fluff up your feathers and blow smoke up your backside. They will tell you exactly what kind of championship you should race in. So these people give you advice, how good you are, if you need more tuition. But after that day, you'll be ready to do your racing, your race license. So just to share some more with you, there is also, just try and get it, these guys. This is Lucas Oil. Lucas Oil offer experiences as well, upcoming school. You can see here they're very sold out, but there's one there at Sebring, 2,900. Again, it would be a course. It would be a course of basically showing you how to drive the car. This is 2 8-hour days with 5 hours of on-track time. So that's 2 days for $3,000. There's lots of things here you can do. There's plenty of experience. Imagine how good you'd be after 2 days of intensive training. This is how you drive. This is how you do it. We're going to do these exercises. You'll do the exercise. We'll give you feedback. You'll go again. It's hardcore. I love it. And in fact, it's kind of similar to what I did back in the 90s. I did a 1-week course. It cost £2,500 back then, which was a lot of money. It took us something to get that money together. But what we did is 4 days of training. The 5th day, I believe, got the race license. They put you through the test, skid car. Somebody sat next to you and you got to drive laps and make sure that you're okay, which obviously everybody passed after 4 days of training. Everybody passed the actual test. You get your race license. And then we did a real race over the weekend where all the competitors, all the graduates, if you like, competed against each other. I think I came 5th. Got my ass absolutely kicked because some of them have been karting forever and a lot of experience. So yeah, 5th place was the best I could do, but it was great. So by the time the end of the week had done, this was Jim Russell. Jim Russell might be around somewhere in some countries. By the time the week was done, we had all the training, had the license, and got a race under our belt already. So I knew how to start, how to overtake, or started to learn how to overtake, and then went out into the real world. That was 1994. I didn't start racing till 97. It took that long to save the money up to race in the Formula Ford Championship. And that was a club version of Formula Ford. It wasn't even the top one. So this is the kind of process that you might have to go through. You might do the training, you might get your license, but then still not have the money to race. So you have to spend a few years hustling, finding championships that are affordable and just getting in there somehow. Buying your own car maybe, but we'll talk about that later. So for now, that's all the pre-license stuff, but you can go a little bit different. Something else you can do is obviously karting. You can do arrive and drive karting until your ears bleed. Like this, 495 for endurance. Then we've got some sprint races. This is Club 100. If you're in the UK, look at Club 100. You can do sprint races for £188 per round. And it is a championship. You got endurance, arrive and drive karting here in America, which is endurance karting. Remember, all the links are down below. But okay, you say karting's nothing like real driving, Enzo. But if it's so cheap just to do, it depends on your age. Say if you're like 14, 13, you want to do a championship that doesn't cost too much. It's still a lot of money, but it doesn't cost too much. And you can just arrive, compete, and go home. You don't even have to use your own cart. And it's affordable like that. The racing experience you'll get still is valid and applicable to when you're racing cars. You'll learn spatial awareness. You'll learn how to think at speed. You'll learn the race line. You'll learn wheel-to-wheel combat, how to defend, how to overtake. And these are the kind of skills, kart control, how to drive in the wet. These are the kind of skills you learn when you're karting. They're not completely transferable to cars because the car's heavier. You have to brake earlier. You've got all that weight that you have to manipulate as you're driving. And the speeds are higher. But if you're a really good karter, you can normally jump in the car and go fairly well. You have all the basics there. So if you're thinking about how can I get racing experience without paying too much money, without doing these £1,200, $1,200 to $3,000 2-day events, then karting is another way. So that's step one. Next, I want to take you to actually getting your license. Again, English schools, but there's some American ones here. But you just look at race schools. You say, right, Enzo, I've done some training. I want to go get my license. Now, if you look at Thruxton, I've got up on the screen now, they train people for £310 to get their license. It's called the Motorsport UK Interclub license now. And once you have that, you can go racing. What they'll do is they'll take you through all the theory. They'll then assess you, and you'll be driving in a Porsche by the looks of it around this track. And at the end of it, you get your race license. And yes, America have their own as well. You've got, again, Alan Berg, and it's a couple of grand or something, but just contact these boys just to ask them, tell them what you want. You want your license, how much you're going to cost. You've also got, again, Lucas Oil, and they do it here. They do your race license. So just have a look at that. And they do a scholarship at Lucas Oil where it's a little mini championship of their own, but the winner actually gets a full race season. So I think you should look into that. Getting the license, the easy bit. You look up your race school. You say, right, how much do you charge to do a test, ARDS test or SCCA test, wherever it is you are. It's quite simple. So the first two steps, pre-license training, I've explained that, how to do it, and then just go get your race license. And once you've done that, that's pretty much it. You know how to do it, and you've got the license to do it. Now we've got to go do it. So step 3 is like, what championship do you want to do? To give you a taster, right, I've just got some websites here that I'm showing on the screen now, which, this first one, all the links are in the description, remember. 9 of the most affordable ways to go racing. This is just a blog that Red Bull put up. First one, 24-hour lemons. Just read it up. It's like 500 quid per car, 3 people entry. It's chump car. So it's quite a laugh, that one, but it's not really serious. They put moped racing, which you might not be into. Now, Fun Cup. This is a good one. This is a busy championship. It doesn't cost too much because the cars are cheap, the entry fees are cheap, and you share it between 3 drivers. Take a look at that there. There's details, people you can contact. So that can be quite cheap if you want to do that. There's low cost racing, which is in the UK again. Cars from 250. Then you need a membership fee. So it's probably like $2,000 for the season. This is all cheap ways to get on the track. So look into this. Lawnmower racing. Say no more. Don't know what this is. Banger racing. There's all sorts. Arrive and drive, drag racing. So here you can see on this website all the different things you could actually do just to get your toe in the water. Now, in the UK, we've got something called the 750 Motor Club. This is an organization, and they run championships that are cost effective. Okay, you've got all these championships down here. Now, one I've mentioned a lot is the MX5s. Now, if you look at the MX5 championship, you can do that for around 20 grand. It is affordable. Anyone, and I want to really talk to you here, anyone can afford a £20,000 championship if they put their mind to it. If you think, right, I'm going to dedicate myself to earning an extra 500 a month, 1,000 a month, and I'm going to come up with a plan and a structure and execute on that, then in 2 years' time, got to be patient. If you haven't got the money, remember, got my license in 94, didn't start racing until 97. Could be the same for you. Saving, chipping away, finding out how to earn that extra cash, putting it in a pot, flipping stuff. Go through your house, find out what you can sell for even like $30. You're building a treasure chest that you can race off. You can. I'm sure you have the capability. If you've got internet, you've got Wi-Fi, you can afford that. You can afford to eat. You can afford to save 20 grand over the years. These kind of championships are doable. You might think to yourself, yeah, but I want to start racing now. Yeah, but if you haven't got the money, you can't. So you're going to have to come up with a plan and a strategy that helps you save up the money. And even if it's racing in 5 years' time, at least you will be racing in 5 years' time. Just remember that. This is doable. I'm only teaching here stuff that I've done myself and I know is doable. Mate, people, just listen. I was delivering pizzas. I was working in a factory and I still managed. It doesn't mean I'm great. I just thought, right, I need to get this money together. And what I did is I bought a car for like £3,000, £4,000 and I just ran it myself. I borrowed a trailer. We got a car with a tow on the back with a Yeah, I just towed it myself, really. Turned up. It was a sham. Honestly, it was terrible. But I was racing. And it probably cost about £2,000 a weekend. But I somehow managed to get the money together. Beg, borrow, steal. People helping you out. You can make it through a championship. It's completely possible. In England, it is anyway. And if it isn't in your country, get to somewhere that is. Go and study in England and do the race at the same time. It's not going to be very easy, but it's simple and it's doable. Believe me, you can do this. Right, back to this. This is the kind of championship that's cheap. Go to 750 Motor Club, you'll see a whole host of them. You've got these Golf GTIs. Everything is cheap. BRSC also have some fairly cost-effective ones. Formula Ford can be. Supercar, the Fiesta Championship. MX-5s again, and a different one. All these are possible for the working class person, I promise you. And if you want a list of all the different categories, again in the links, you can see these are the ones in the US. These are all the different racing series in the UK. What else have I got here? All right. So if you want to go the route of buying your own car, Race Cars Direct is good. So if you think to yourself, I'm going to do what Enzo did, I'm going to buy my own car and then I'm going to just run it myself. I'm going to get it there. I'm going to use my mate as a mechanic, and we're just going to get through the season somehow in a cheap championship. Now, the reason I bought the car was because I knew I could sell it in the end. And I did. I made about £1,000 profit just because I got some good results and put it up on Autosport for sale. And luckily, someone came and bought it and they went on and raced. So you can actually get your money back. Race cars don't depreciate that much unless you've rolled it into a ball. You've had an almighty accident and you've rolled it into a ball and it's no longer a car. So get insurance. Insurance can cost like, I don't know, $300 pounds per race weekend, depending on the country and everything like that. But what insurance does in motorsport, how insurance works is that you cover the first like 3,000 if there's damage. After 3,000, that's when the insurance kicks in. Up until about, I don't know, 30k of damage, then you take over again. So they cover the middle bit. You do the first $3,000, you pay for that. So if it's less than $3,000 damage, there's no point even claiming against it. But anything in the fat from 3 to 25, depending on the policy you have, they cover. So some people don't even bother getting insurance. If you bend it, you mend it kind of thing. Clothing. Now I've gone to Demon Tweaks here just because it's got everything here. But you'll need a race suit. You'll need race boots. You'll need gloves and fireproof underwear. Those 4. And I think you're going to spend around 897. I've worked it out on the actual clothing before the helmet. 897. You can have a race suit that's like £251 here, or you can go all the way down. It gets more and more expensive till you're spending, I'd say, around what, 1,200 to 1,500 there. So it's up to you how much you spend on a race suit, but you don't have to spend everything you've got. You need fireproof underwear for underneath it, gloves and stuff like that. Then also you need a helmet. Depending on what you're racing, it could be something as cheap as £500, £380. It's got to have the correct sticker in the back that shows you it's homologated and it's good enough for you to race. So it's got to be a fairly good one. But the race kit is going to be $897 for all the clothing and the hands device and stuff like this. But then the helmet on top, it depends how much you want to spend. And then you can spend another $500 to $600 spraying the thing. So that's up to you. You can get secondhand stuff. You can borrow someone else's kit. So you can cut corners there. But just remember, you need clothing. But that's really it. The running total now is around about 25k. That's to get this is pounds. That's to get your license, to do the training before, to get your license and to do a championship. Obviously, again, you can do it cheaper. You can go and get your license for £310. There you go. On you go. But if you want to do it well, this is how much it costs. Now, if there's any questions on this, just write it in the comments. Let me know. Because I think I've covered everything. I've just walked you through the process of how to go racing. And you're going to be in, lots of people are being countries where it's not as possible. So you have to go to a different country to do this. But this is literally how you do it. This is how you get into motorsport, how you get your license. You do a bit of training, do some track days, you get your race license, and on you go.